Hi, welcome back to my reading corner. Get your pillow and your cozy blanket and let's read. We've been reading When the Dandelions Sing, and today we're on chapter 9, The Picnic. Grammy picked back up where she left off. She got right to repairing the tattered fence. She stained the weathered deck again because it was fading, and she always liked to sit on her porch. She walked around the property a little more than usual, but it was keeping her busy, which was doing her some good. We all knew she was missing Granddad, but she had a lot of life left in her, and she needed to continue with living. Jasper, come give Grammy a hand, will you? She went right back to hanging out with us. Granddad had been such a big part of our lives, and she didn't want us to feel the great loss that it actually was for us. She figured if she had us helping her, we would realize that we had enough in her and Mama that being sad would just need to wait for another time. Early one pleasant Saturday morning, Grammy pulled the truck to the front of the house, honked her horn, and waited for me to come out. When I did, she told me to hop in, that we're going to go for a ride. I told Mama I was heading out somewhere with Grammy and ran out, letting the screen door slam behind me with a purpose. When I got in, there was an old flannel blanket, a light brown basket, and a bottle with what looked to be lemonade laying in the middle between where I was seated and where Grammy was driving. There was also a small brown paper bag seated directly next to Grammy. What's this? Where are we going? Jasper, we're going to have a picnic. It's time we have one together, don't you agree? Of course I did. I loved the time Grammy and I had to spend alone. She had spent time with all of us, but lately, with Granddad gone now, she spent a little extra alone time with me. She knew Granddad had a lot of one-on-one time with me over the past few years, and that I desperately needed that time with him. She also knew she couldn't fill those shoes of his, but she would do her darndest. We drove for about 10 minutes towards town and pulled over to the side of the road. Grammy opened her door, stepped carefully out, looking down the road first, and told me to get out as well. I opened the passenger door, got out, walked toward the back of the truck where Grammy was, and watched as the cars whizzed by, almost unaware of our presence. "What are we doing now, Grammy?" I asked. "Jasper, every picnic needs some flowers. We're going out in that field to pick us some. Any colors you want." I walked out and picked a few, not really understanding why I picked the ones I did. Then I spotted some white ones that were the color of new fallen snow and walked over to where they were. Picking those was a little harder because they had a tougher stem than the first purple ones I had grabbed. I eventually got some out and noticed Grammy had found some yellow dandelions and had them placed in a bag. I always thought dandelions were just useless weeds, but honestly, they're very pretty to look at. I walked a few more paces, grabbed a few more, and turned to Grammy to show her how good I had done picking the flowers. She winked at me and told me we had enough for the picnic. Back in the truck, Grammy had a blue-tinted vase sitting in that brown paper bag. She told me to pull the vase out of the bag and place the flowers we had just picked into it. I took the white ones out first, then added the purple. After that, I added the bright yellow dandelions, which made the flower vase look amazing. I was proud of myself, to be honest. I held it out to admire my handiwork, and Grammy glanced over as she drove. "Why, Jasper, that looks wonderful. You did a great job. I'm proud of you," as she smiled from her seat. When we were about to enter town, Grammy made a sudden left turn. We drove along the water, down a narrow path with a hill, and over into an area away from the constant noise of town. As we got closer to the water, I saw a large wood-colored cross at the entrance to a field. We drove through two large black gates, open already, and straight into the fields. There were different sized and shaped stones protruding from the ground throughout the fields. It was not an overly massive area, but it was large enough you could only see the stones at first. When we approached the rear, a spot overlooked some of the riverbanks, blocked only by a tree line of red maples. There, Grammy slowed the truck down, pulled over onto a grassy patch, and turned off the truck. She took the key from the ignition and sat back, looking straight ahead. I just sat there myself, unsure of where we were or what I was supposed to be doing. I still had in my hands the vase with the purple and white flowers that we had just added dandelions to for more color. Grammy stared off for a moment. Then she put her head down and asked me, "Jasper, do you know where we are? Why we're here?" Not really, Grammy. No, I don't." "Granddad is here," she paused, "right over there. You see where the grass isn't fully grown yet, with the brown patches in between? In between those rose-colored stones, right over there, that's where Granddad is. I thought today would be a good day to visit him and bring him a picnic." I was confused. I knew he was under the green grass and dirt in front of us, but I wasn't sure how we would have a picnic with him. Not knowing what to expect, I was feeling nervous and a little bit scared, and my palms were drenched in sweat. I wanted to ask questions, but my mind wouldn't get those questions to where my mouth was to get them out in the open. I was frozen stiff for a minute, and then Grammy reached over and put her hand on mine. "He's here in spirit, Jasper. We can't see him, but he can surely see us. I truly believe that. We're just going to have a picnic, you and me, and Granddad could look on down from up in the sky and watch over us as we do. I think he would like that, Jasper, that we decided to come and visit him. He will especially like the flowers you picked out for him. Do you know, or do you want to know, a little secret? Granddad never sprayed the dandelions in the yard. He too felt they were too pretty to kill. In the afternoon, he liked to sit on the porch and look over the hundreds of yellow dandelions we had in the yard. The one thing he always said to me was that it was almost as if the dandelions were singing. They always looked so firm, strong, and alive, as if they were singing straight up into the air, yearning for the sun to acknowledge them. I never understood why until this very moment. He liked the simple things, the underdog, as he would say. That man found the beauty in the weeds as much as he did in the flowers that everyone else seen. Knowing the dandelions needed so little in life to thrive and grow into that beautiful rich yellow color fascinated him. Seeing what others could not see was something that made him special. "Every living thing has just as much right to shine as another," he used to say. I didn't see that until just now. Even with Granddad gone, he still surprises me, and I still learn from him. He was just a good, honest man. For the first time since we arrived, tears formed in the tiny creases at the corners of Grammy's eyes. When one was ready to drop from her lids, she would wipe it clean, and then another would form in defiance, and she would continue this battle for a few minutes before she collected herself and headed over towards that bare spot in the grass. There she laid down the old flannel blanket she had taken from the truck and smiled at the stone with Granddad's name on the front, with some dates underneath. The basket she had in her left hand she placed gently down on the blanket and sat down beside it. Once she had things settled, Grammy looked over to where I was still sitting in the front of Granddad's truck, and with a gentle smile, she softly motioned for me to come over to where she was seated. I gathered myself, grabbed the flowers I had picked by the side of the road, and opened the door. As I stepped out, I could feel a strange emotion coming over me. This was the first time I would be around my granddad since he died, and I still didn't know how to feel about it all or what exactly to expect in the coming moments. I was certainly scared, but now I was feeling more sadness coming over me than anything. My mouth started to feel a slight ache a little towards the back, as if I was about to cry, but I didn't want to cry. Grammy had kept from crying, so could I. I was the second man of the house now, behind Davy. That was an important role, and I had to take it very seriously, like a man should. There could be no crying. If I was the man of the house, never had I seen Granddad cry. He had times where, when he looked out through his dirty, cracked windshield at what seemed like a different time than the one we were in, then he would look a little sad, but cry? Never. He was too strong for all that. So I thought about baseball. What Eric Davies had done the night before. He struck out twice, grounded back to the pitcher, and doubled in the 8th inning. Thought about how the Reds were looking compared to the rest of the National League. Then I walked over to Grammy, placed the flowers down in the center of the blanket, and sat with her. Jasper, here, we place the flowers right on the bottom of the stone so everyone can see them, Grammy explained. Why? Aren't they just for Granddad? How can he see them anyway? And when do we know that he sees us here? What is it we should be doing? Grammy smiled and looked over to Granddad's off-white stone with the deep indentations that spelled out his formal name and had those dates underneath. It said, Walter R. McFarland, born February 26, 1917, died May 23, 1989. May he rest in eternal peace. He knows, Jasper. He knows. Let's eat. Aren't you hungry? As Grammy took out the food she had prepared that morning, I took out my spiral notebook and jotted this down. How do the people that die know we're here? Why do we put flowers there for other people to see? How do we know they're there? Then I carefully and nonchalantly placed it back in my back pocket and helped Grammy with the items she had packed. We pulled out 2 bologna and American cheese sandwiches that had yellow spicy mustard on them. I love spicy mustard, better than the regular old mustard. It just tastes, I don't know, really, just a little spicier, I guess. Then she had a large bag of potato chips, a jar of sliced pickles, and some napkins and paper plates. She reached over to the lemonade, opened the lid, and poured 3 cups. 1 for me, 1 for her, and then the third one she poured and placed where she had just laid the flowers at the base of the stone we were sitting next to. She knew I was watching, so without having to ask her, and without having to write that in my notebook, she just said, Granddad loved lemonade, so I brought him a cup too. For some old reason, that made sense. Nothing else about him dying or watching us or the flowers so other people could see them. But this, it made a little sense. So I just smiled and took a sip of my lemonade. I pictured Granddad and me sitting on the shaded front porch, looking out across the dusty road before us to where some other time had once been, and he would tell me a story. We could talk for hours, he and I never once got bored. His stories were always about a time now inevitably gone, but I could almost see what he was talking about. I felt like I could see the people he told me about, the places he once loved to visit, and the lost era he had so hoped to slow down, but could not. I could almost taste the ice cream cone he had with Grammy when they first met. It was as if I were there with him, and that was my favorite part of his stories. The places he took me with just his words and facial expressions. I never felt like I was there alone. Grammy, do you miss him a lot? I know I sure do. I don't like that he died. Why does God let people die anyway? I mean, if he didn't let young kids die, he wouldn't need moms and dads and granddads to die. Granddad told me his mom died because she was needed to help take care of all those little kids that had died before she did. Why can't he just let them all live? She paused, wanting to explain it in a gentle way that I would understand, but also in a way that she would understand as well. Grammy didn't completely know what the right answer to that question was, but she tried her best to give me something that would make sense. Jasper, I don't know exactly why, but I know that when we die, if we're good people throughout our time here, we get to go to heaven and see all the people who died before us. When my time comes, I will get to see Granddad once again, And how great will that be? Maybe he is waiting at the gate for me, so that he can walk me in and show me around some. When it's my time, I will surely ask God all these questions you have. If I can find a way to get you the answers, you better believe I will." And then she winked at me, making me smile and chuckle a little bit. I sat back on my legs, took another sip, and looked at Granddad's stone. I felt the need to talk to him, so I decided to do just that. If he was there, he would hear me, and well, I had to tell him some things I never got the chance to. So I began. "Granddad, I didn't get to thank you. Remember all our times in town? I liked those trips, just you and me. I especially liked when you stopped by the road and told me all about when you were a little boy, all the things you got to do before, where now a building stood tall and arrogant. I liked watching you stare out and remember all those times that passed you by, because I felt like I was there with you. Thank you. I sure do miss you. But Grammy says when I die, I should be able to see you and give you a big hug. Maybe if you're not too busy in heaven, you can wait for me at the gate too. Would that be okay? I know I will be scared, but if I see you there waiting for me, then I won't be. You always protected me, and I know you will in heaven too. Anyway, I'm glad Grammy brought me here to have this picnic with you. I wish you were sitting next to me, though, but you are under the ground. But don't worry, the worms can't get you. Janet told me so, and she's smart. She knows about that stuff. Tell God I said hi, and to please keep Grammy safe. I don't want to lose her, too." Grammy smiled and said, "Jasper, that was simply beautiful. Granddad surely is loving that we came to visit him today, and he is loving that you just told him all of what you liked. His favorite part about taking you on those rides into town was that you liked to listen to his stories, that you asked him questions and showed genuine interest. He liked that about you. When he would come home, he would tell me all about it, and how you would ask questions and want to learn. Granddad loved that, Jasper. Don't ever lose that. Always question things and people. It's how we learn, how we grow. I bet Granddad is smiling right now, telling his own Mama that he is proud of you and how you are growing. I bet he's doing that right now." It made me smile to think Granddad was walking with his Mama, talking with her, and getting to know her for the first time. I wonder if he knew who she was. She had died when he was little, so maybe someone had to point her out to him, and then he could go introduce himself to her. I wanted to ask Grammy about it, but I felt like maybe I asked a lot already, so I wrote that one down too. How do we know who people are in heaven that we never got to see much here on earth? My notebook was coming in handy. The more I wrote on those blue-lined pages, the more I knew that when I got older, I would understand better. I would have all the answers I wanted, and there would be a million of them. It would take me a long time to go through all the questions I would have, but it would be worth it. Grammy took a final bite of her sandwich, wiped the sides of her mouth with the napkin she had brought with her, and took another long sip of her lemonade from her lemonade glass. She looked up to the sky and squinted slightly because the sun was touching us both that morning, and smiled. I watched her carefully, wondering where she was. What memory was she thinking about? So I just imagined one of Granddad's stories where they had been walking to the movies when they first met. Granddad said they were holding hands, and the skies opened up over them. It rained in a sudden downpour, and Grammy was getting soaked through her clothes. So Granddad took off his overcoat and placed it over Grammy. Only now he was all wet. They made it to the theater, and Grammy was laughing at Granddad being all wet. Granddad laughed along with her, and they stood there dripping and smiling at one another. They almost missed the movie because they had forgotten what they were there for. It was, as Granddad said, his best date ever. I bet that's what Grammy is thinking about now. She's looking up at the sky and pretending like it's raining cats and dogs. She's probably smiling, knowing they are laughing and dripping, soaking wet to the bone, and dropping water all over the carpet in the theater. That was a good day. I was there. Well, I was there because Granddad had made it seem all so real to me. I felt I was watching them, that I could see the water running down their clothes and onto the red carpet beneath their feet, that I could smell the rain as it was on that day. That is how his stories were. They were real, and I was there with him through it all. And that is the end of chapter 9. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you'll come back and join me tomorrow for another chapter. Bye.